Welcome. This is Crazy Man 777 here. Wait, there's one more 7. Anyway, what is Mr. Crazy Man, the console boy extraordinaire, doing on World of Tanks, PC, and Update 1.0? Well, obviously, Update 1.0 is sort of important for World of Tanks PC, so it's a good reason to talk about it. Secondly, other good reason to talk about it is that the console gets these updates eventually, no matter what I think about them. So I'd like to address this update before it comes to the console. It's not going to come in the exact same way, but I think it is important nonetheless to take a look at it, to think about what might actually come to the console, what the console will benefit from here. And now I'm getting into my topics. So I have 3 parts to this video. I'm going to talk about what does this mean for the PC version. This version might be a little bit less this might be a little bit less credible, my opinion on this, because I don't really play the World of Tanks PC all that much, as you can see by the fact that my top tank is this thing. So we're going to go through what does this update mean for World of Tanks PC. What is the difference between World of Tanks PC and the console? Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions there. And what does this update mean for the console? And we're going to talk about if it got all of this update, if it was just straight to the console. We would lose some things there. And we're going to talk about what those things would be. But if it was as normal, where the major PC updates, like the being able to flip your tank, are done differently, like for example on the Xbox version, and I'm going to talk about the Xbox version, not the console version, because I don't know. I don't have a PS4. I'm not going to waste my time doing the whole game over again on the PS4. So. And that's part of the reason why I don't play World of Tanks PC. But anyway, I'm just going to talk about the Xbox because that's what I know. I know that one in and out. I know the PC version somewhat in and out. All right, I'd say I'm about like 60% on the PC version. I've spent enough time to know about 60% how the game works on the PC version, and I'd say about 80-90% on the Xbox version. You're never going to get 100% because they always do updates and they always just keep changing it. You have to play every day. It'd have to be your job to be 100%, I think. But anyway, so I'm just going to get straight into this, and we're going to try to go through each of these with we're going to go through it at God's speed, all right? We're going to go as fast as we possibly can. Go through these updates while I'm trying to play the game at the same time. Probably not a good idea, but probably going to go just about as well as it does when I try to do this on the Xbox. But anyway, I think it's always good to have gameplay in the background, and I think that sometimes I make points better when I'm trying to play the game. I'll have a time when I'm talking politics with my friends on World of Tanks Xbox. Then that's really where I make the better points. So when I'm talking, when I'm talking on about this game, I'd like to be playing this game. Sometimes things come up, like literally just things come up in the game. I'm like, oh, forgot that. So. Here we go. What does this update mean for the PC? So, of course, most of this is going to be in my opinion. I think some of it is going to be kind of objective fact. You'll can have your own opinion on what that, if that's a correct thing to say about what I'm about to say. So, I think we can agree on, there are 3 major things that that this update does. It changes all of the music. I think it changed how the music works. I'm not so sure about that. It didn't really seem like it to me when I had it on, And obviously I have it off right now, not only because it's annoying, not only because it annoys me, but I think it would annoy you if I was to let the music play at the same time as trying to talk. So that is that's where we're going on that. But anyway, the music, graphics is the part that I think wargaming and a lot of people have put the most emphasis on, and we'll talk about why it's kind of really stupid in a second. But the last one is the core engine, redo of the core engine, where it's actually optimized, and now the game isn't like 100 gigabytes or whatever the fuck it was before. So that last point, I would say, is the most important of the three. Because the first two, they're subjective. You can argue about graphics all day. Somebody can enjoy a pixel game for what it is without really giving a fuck about the graphics. It's all about the gameplay when it comes to games, gameplay design. The graphics and the music are what ties it all together. That's kind of like the finalizing thing. The music really gives you the theme of the game without necessarily playing it. Or it can display a theme that perhaps the game does not display by itself. You know, so like a lot of the Halo games, you really get kind of the sadness and whatnot. Not necessarily from the characters, although that sometimes happens, but you get it more from the music. You really get it from those strings. You really get it from there, or you really get the tension from that. So that pulls scenes and parts of the game together. And this game doesn't even have a campaign, so honestly, music doesn't really matter unless I'm sitting in the garage. You know, having music in the garage, it kind of amps you up. That when you go back, and it's like, oh yeah, you know, that really gets you going, I think. And I don't really think they've done that right in this, but that's just my opinion. And like I said, the graphics are also in the same way. They pull it together. They take the graphics are the really artsy part of the game. You know, what does the skybox look like? How have they painted the skybox? How do they make the edges? What do the edges of a tank look like? And of course, this in World of Tanks, they're kind of trying to go realistic, like. So at this point, I think the graphics matter to the degree that they are realistic. The detail to which they are realistic, I'm not really sure I care all that much about. And by that, I mean, like, I think the game was still... I could understand back in Update 9.0, even though the graphics were kind of shitty, that I could understand what the game was going for there. So that's what I mean by the graphics don't really matter. I think I could have understood what they were doing. I think I could understand what they were doing, what they were trying to put forward with their graphics before. So I don't really know. I don't really think that making the graphics this good, like this, really matters all that much. It makes you, like Wargaming said in one of their update videos, or not update videos, their dev diary on the graphics, the evolution of the graphics. It's really the graphics are really kind of all in the emotional thing, like how real it is just makes you kind of get a little bit more immersed. And I think only a little bit more. I think the gameplay is really more what gets you into it. I mean, a game like Hearts of Iron 4, the graphics are kind of shitty, but you really get into it because of how the game works. You have to get into it because you're running a country in that game. So each individual facet of your country is almost entirely controlled by you in that game. So the game really gets you in. And I think that's true with almost any game. I think really the only games where the graphics really kind of matter are ones in which the company has a lot of money and the game is supposed to look like, if the game is supposed to be, this is the, like, if it's like Star Wars Battlefront, what they were going for was they were trying to make a game. They were trying to make a game that was Star Wars. It doesn't look like Star Wars. This is Star Wars. That kind of thing. Still a shitty game, but that's on the wayside. That doesn't matter to this argument. So, World of Tanks is not one of those games. They're not like this is World War II. They've got an arcade element to the game. I think that they can pass on a lot of graphical things if they need to. I don't think they should because they have a fuck ton of money and that would be really stupid. But nevertheless, they could get a pass on it, I would say, because it's not necessary. Does not change gameplay unless in only very specific circumstances do graphics change gameplay. Like for example, in Halo Reach, the graphics are exact to the polygons that the game consists of. So when you shoot at something, you cannot be like, oh, well, the polygons are not going to be the same as the graphics. And you can't say that the graphics don't matter in Halo Reach because you can shoot a rocket between your teammates' thighs, kind of thing. That's what I mean by it. And I don't really think in World of Tanks that really matters all that much unless you're going to like do trick shots through tiny little holes in between rocks. And even then, that's kind of iffy because you're shooting tank bullets, so those are kind of big. Like it really more matters in FPS games, the graphics, than this game. Anyway, so we've gone through the two subjective ones. Now the one that matters, the essence of the game, the core engine, that changes gameplay because when it comes down to it, gameplay on PC. This is one of the reasons I don't like PC all that much, is because gameplay changes based off of how much money you've spent on your rig. And I think that fucking sucks. Especially since not a lot of games take the time to do what World of Tanks has done here, which is make it so that almost anybody can run a smooth game on World of Tanks now. That is worth commending because that is the reason why I'm just like, alright, I'm just gonna fuck off in a lot of PC games because they clearly expect you to spend, you know, $1,000 to $1,500 on American dollars on your gaming setup, and I think that's ridiculous because you can end up spending that amount just on fucking games in like 2 years. I would rather, in my opinion, I would rather just buy a console and know that the devs already know what I got. So if they make a game that runs poorly on there, that's the devs' fault, not mine. I would rather the devs take as many things as possible into their responsibility when it comes to making the game, because that's what they're supposed to be doing. They're the developers. I really don't get this attitude that a lot of the PC developers have, which is that they're just going to make the game and then they don't care how many, they clearly don't care how many people get it for a lot of them, because they're not going to optimize their game so that anybody can play. So, you know, the optimization of a game and the core engine really does matter. How efficient the engine is basically really matters on a PC. So I think that we can all say that it is objectively commendable that World of Tanks has spent this time, however much time it was, actually making it so that the engine of this game is not shite, and you can actually run it decently on what I would say on a decent machine. That is certainly something that I don't see from many PC developers. Maybe I'm going to the wrong PC developers. You know, I understand that games like Overwatch and a lot of Valve games are very optimized. So it's possible that I'm just not in the right place at the right time, but I think that optimization is a core part of the game development process, and companies that ignore that are ignoring potential customers, and I don't think that's a good business practice. So there, it's almost active like it is almost active discrimination against people that have shitty PCs. Almost. Uh, the reason why I say almost is that it easily could just be, don't attribute to malice what could be attributed to just being a fucking idiot. So I think it's really just the PC developers don't care. But anyway, now we've gotten through. Oh yeah, so the thing that's really significant about this update is the thing that really means something about this update is the core engine, and what this update means, therefore, from my point of view, and I think it should be from most people's point of view, since this is the only thing that's really the objective part of the game that they've added, is that the game is now easily playable on as many things as possible. They've optimized the game. That is, that really, I think, is worth developer time. That is one of the few things that World of Tanks PC has done in the last 5 years, I would say, that is actually worth developer time. So kudos to that. You made a beneficial update for once on the PC that didn't make me want to cry my eyes out. So that's good. All right, that's pretty good for the PC devs. I think that's good. So now we're getting into the difference between the console and the PC. One of the major ones for World of Tanks is the devs. I think the devs for World of Tanks console, I'm just gonna straight out say it. I think they're the best. They're one of the best devs that I've ever seen. Every time I got questions when I got they answer questions every week. They answer questions all the time on the forums. Every time that I give them a game ticket, I have a question or a thing that's going wrong. They fix it within 24 hours, and they work like hell, as far as I can tell. They made the World of Tanks Xbox One in probably about 6 months, I think, maybe a year. As far as I can tell, at least, it was less time than the World of Tanks PC took to make Update 1.0. So they took about 2 years to make Update 1.0. As far as I remember, maybe it was about a year and a half. But whenever Update 9.0 came out, they were basically already working on Update 1.0. From what I saw on their dev diaries. So this is a point where I feel like the PC, from what I've seen, for how much time the PC devs took on World of Tanks PC Update 1.0, during all that time, as far as I can tell, the console devs made World of Tanks Xbox One, and they made World of Tanks PS4. And the PS4 one, at least, did actually happen at that time. And as far as I know, it only took them about 6 months to make that. They made World of Tanks from scratch on another console right after they basically finished doing it on the Xbox One. And the graphics at that point, like between Update 9.0 graphics and console graphics, the console graphics were better for the Xbox One. Not the 360. The 360 kind of sucked. 360 was a lot more similar to the 9.0 update at that point, but it was worse. So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by the console was over the PC at this point? Well, over the duration of World of Tanks Xbox 360's legacy, They had added animated objects on your tanks, like radio aerials going back and forth, and machine guns bumping up and down. They had full track mechanics, and what I mean by that is that, like you see here, the bogies are going up and down, or not bogies, the torsion bar springs are going up and down on the tank suspension and whatnot. We've had that since forever, basically. We got on surprisingly enough, we actually got weather maps, and we got weather maps on the Xbox 360 version. And then when it came to the Xbox One, then we got extreme weather maps. We got accumulation and particle effects. We got particle effects on our tanks. We got engine sounds that I think last summer or something. We got the engine sounds, and we got the heat, the heat coming out of your engine, that kind of thing. You could see the heat distortion at the same time as the exhaust. So we got pretty much everything from Update 1.0 before Update 1.0 came out. You know, over time, of course, but you know, before 1.0 came out, and so it took them that long. It took them that time to get all these things that are already in Update 1.0, or what am I trying to say? It took the PC a long time to get a lot of things that were already on the Xbox version, on the Xbox One. And some of these things, like the weather, the particle effects from snow, those still aren't in I mean, like, when snow comes down on your tank, it collects on there very slowly. These things are still not in World of Tanks PC. They still don't exist here. I can't believe that they still don't exist, based off of the time the Xbox One version has had for 2 years. That was about when they started working on Update 1.0, as far as I've gathered. So it seems like it's a really strange thing that there are still things in Update 1.0 that Update 1.0 is missing, that World of Tanks console has. So now we've gotten to after the update, and what does the console lack? So we've talked about things that Update 1.0 doesn't have, but what? Because of course there are things that the console doesn't have. And what I would say is that the lighting is slightly nicer, the shadows are better on the PC version. The water actually has physics. That's something that we're missing, that I'm very disappointed that we're still missing. I think that's just about it. We aren't missing that many things, is basically my point. You could count the things that we're missing between World of Tanks PC and World of Tanks console on one hand. And all of them are graphical. Well, no, one is not graphical. We do not have the artillery update. And the console version is supposed to get it, but we may get our own version, so I can't say whether or not we're missing exactly what the PC version has. But from the things that came into World of Tanks PC from Update 1.0, we are missing only a small portion of things that, like I said, you can count on one hand. And to me, that really shines a light on the incompetence of what I perceive as the incompetence of the devs on the PC version. It seems to me that, based off the evidence, the console devs take far less time to do the same things that the PC guys take their time to do. I mean, update, like I said, the console already has almost everything that was released in Update 1.0, and no, okay. thought the game was just like frozen for a second and then I got shot. But anyway, almost everything that the PC version took all that time to add was already in the console version when it released on the Xbox One, and that was 2 years ago. So I just can't figure out what the PC devs were spending all this time on. I don't think it could possibly be optimization, because every single update that the console version does is optimized. Our game is only 50 gigabytes, but we already had before update 1.0 all this HG crap and the weather, and you know, we had this stuff, and we had way more than 9.0 did. And 9.0 had more gigabytes to it, if I remember correctly, than the Xbox version did. So, as far as I know, the devs have, and we've had the same core engine, basically. We already had Havoc since the Xbox 360 days, so it's a mystery to me how the devs wasted so much time for the PC on doing update 1.0 when basically the console devs did it twice in a row in less time. They did the PS4 version they did the PS4 version from scratch, and they did the Xbox One version. And both of those, as far as I know, took a year at the most. Pretty sure the PS4 version took less time, but I'm not gonna go and get into all of that. So I cannot speak for the PS4 people. Do not know the ways of Sony. Oh no, somebody invited me to Platoon, whatever am I gonna do? So, basically, I think we've gotten through all the things. Maybe a little bit confusing. I tend to ramble and kind of go in different directions, but hopefully, guys, for those who actually taken the time to listen, have understood. Oh, in conclusion, I would say for each of the points, what does this update mean for the PC version? Basically, all it means, if you're just going to take the objective things, is that they now have an optimized engine, which is certainly worth dev time. Maybe not worth the amount of dev time that was taken, though. And then, for what is the difference? The console version was better until update 1.0, and now they're just about the same. The PC version and the console version. Then for what does this mean for the console version? Not really all that much. Like I said, the things that they would probably add are about on one hand. Since as far as I know, all they're going to add is the graphical stuff. And usually the Xbox version takes its own route to doing things. So, it may not even be all of those. But the differences between 1.0, graphics-wise, which is the only, like I said, we already have an optimized engine as far as I know. It doesn't really matter in the first place, since the game doesn't really underperform on the console anyway. Since everybody has the same, everybody already has the same stuff, so optimization, although useful, may not matter nearly as much.